Hey guys, Rich here. In today's video I wanted to kind of help some of you guys out and also give myself a little boost of confidence. I've been getting a lot of messages from students, from composers about dealing with the mindset of being a composer, dealing with the inner critic, dealing with imposter syndrome, not understanding other musical genres and feeling like you can't do it, not feeling like you can write easily, feeling like you could write too slowly, feeling like the stuff you produce isn't good enough. It's, you know, that's essentially what it comes down to, that everyone is worrying about not being good enough. So I wanted to give you guys some advice, 5 pieces of advice to help you and myself along this path. Now the first piece of advice is this: it's to write every day, and write little and often. When you can, just practice free writing. So that just means writing, and that's it. Whether that's noodling on the piano, whether that is loading up a new project on your DAW and then just recording and playing something in, just let the music out, and that's it. Don't criticize it, don't edit it, don't do anything, just let it out and practice that. Because actually what you're practicing is, you're not practicing the art of not finishing music, you are practicing the art of letting go of your ideas. Because that's what we are as creatives, we are letting go of these ideas that are in here, or coming down from there, wherever you want to call it. You are letting go, and you're practicing letting go. Because what happens if you don't let go, it means that you stop producing work more easily, you stop being as creative as you really can be, and you stop yourself sharing your gift with the world. You need to let go, and writing often is the trick to doing that. Letting go of your music, writing every day if you can, even if it's a tiny amount, you know. If you want to keep it to yourself and keep it on your hard drive, by all means do that, or you can share it on your Instagram feed or on YouTube, whatever. Just share your gift, guys. You are all gifted. We are all fascinated with sound, and that's why we're here. So practice writing, practice carving sound and carving music. Practice it every day. Tip number 2. Now this one, I've already done a video on this, but I think it bears repeating. Use the tools you have. Don't worry about the tools you don't have, okay? Because what you do here, again, you're not focused on limitation, you're focusing on opening yourself out. So by embracing the tools you have, you are encouraging creativity. Creativity thrives on limitation. Creativity doesn't thrive on having 1,001 string samples. Creativity thrives on you having one single string library and having to create the sound you want from that library. You don't need the expensive mic, you don't need the expensive outboard gear, you don't need much else other than a computer, some kind of capturing device, and some kind of sampler. That's basically what you need, because then what you can do is you can create your own samples, therefore creating your own characterful music. You can record your own sound, you can carve your own MIDI, you can do everything. I mean, the stuff we have is like the sound of the future from a couple of decades ago. I mean, even when I first started out, this would be like, what? Mind-boggling. In fact, even the iPhone still blows my mind. So use the tools you have and embrace them. See them as like a gift. They are. We are all incredibly lucky and blessed to have the stuff we have. I mean, even just like one single good sample library, like for instance Spitfire Albion. I'm so blessed to have that. I mean, I essentially have the access to an orchestra at my fingertips. I mean, even within Logic, the synths in Logic X, I say new Logic, revealing my age, the synths are just wonderful. The drum kit design is great. There's so much there. Embrace the sounds you have and use them to your advantage. Tip number 3. Now this comes out of one of my students saying that he felt like he couldn't write in other styles. Like he had his one style and then all the other styles he couldn't do, or at least he told himself he couldn't do. Now I want to kind of reassure him, reassure myself, reassure all of you that actually we are all using the same elements. So I've done a video about the 7 basic elements of music that we are dealing with. We are all dealing with pitch, timbre, texture, silence, tempo, harmony, and rhythm, duration. We're all dealing with, I'm sure there's one I've forgotten actually, or at least I've confused it, but we're all dealing with the basic elements, those same things. And specifically, if you get down even more focused, we are all essentially writing in 4-part harmony, and we're all essentially writing beats. So strings and beats comes back to that again, doesn't it? We are writing 4-part harmony with rhythms. That's what everything is coming back down to. If you're writing a organic sound design track, you are still thinking in essentially a 4-part harmony with a rhythm. You're thinking about your bass, you're thinking about your top line, you're thinking about your mid notes, your harmony, you know, the notes that reveal the quality of your chords. That's what you're doing, and that's what you're doing when you write for an orchestra. That's what you're doing when you write for a band. That's what you're doing when you're writing in any style, whether it's hip-hop, whether it's classical, whether it's rock, whether it's post-rock, whether it's avant-garde, contemporary classical. You're dealing with the same things. So the moment you can kind of release that fear of not being good enough and just say to yourself, okay, we're all dealing with the same. We're all basically using clay, right? The analogy. We've all got clay, the same 7 elements, and we're all carving and sculpting it just to make different things. So if you want to try and write in another style of music, just start to free yourself up a little bit. We're all using the same chord progressions. We're all using the same harmonies, essentially, the same melodies. So what makes that style different to what I'm doing? And it's usually very, very subtle differences. If you're going from like an EDM background to writing for a string quartet, you just need to start thinking, okay, well, what am I doing that's the same as what they're doing? Okay, the builds could be the same. The bass line go to the cello. The synth line go to the top violin. The synth pads go to violin 2 and viola. Boom. You suddenly have a reiteration of your own ideas. And that's what we're doing. We're not all becoming masters of our one genre, or we're not becoming like jack of all trades. We are trying to communicate ourselves through sound. Okay? And we are all doing that using the same basic elements. Remember that. Block writing. Now this is huge. Again, this was given to me by my tutor at university, Conor Gleeson, who also gave me the write every day tip. He introduced me to the idea of block writing. I showed him some of my music and he said, oh yeah, you're block writing. And I was like, what's that? And he said, oh, it's all over film and TV. It's just basically where you treat your tracks like blocks, loops, patterns, and you're gluing them together. And that's how the cinematic music we have today has sort of spawned from that kind of block writing notion. But everybody is block writing, and this is what I'm coming to realise when I hear all manner of music. And I've done lots of research into other genres of music because I'm a cinematic composer. I need to understand them and I want to understand them. We're all block writing. We're all going, okay, here's section A. Whether you call that Act 1 in the trailer world, whether you call that the first 10 seconds, whether you call that your intro, whether you call that whatever, we're all saying what's happening in this first section. Even when you deal with more complicated classical writing, I say classical not just referring to the movement of classical music, but also classical as in the kind of genre of music. Even in those more complicated jazz, I say complicated jazz, there we go, you get it right. Even in jazz, you're still block writing. You're still going, okay, here's my section, and what's happening in this section? Okay, here's my next section, what's happening in this section? As soon as you can embrace blocks and patterns, and then understanding how you can connect the patterns, connect the blocks, all of a sudden all of this music just reveals itself beautifully. Block A, block B, put them together, how do we make that seam? And that's what you're doing. You're block writing, guys. Remember that. So how do you make block A join to block B in a nice smooth way. And how do you make block A and block B feel like they're growing, or feel like a complete whole? And that's where we get into the smaller details, but we're block writing, guys. That's what we're doing. Tip 5. Now this is coming from, I think, a place of success. I say full-time composer. I work part-time hours. I earn good money for it, and I've won multiple awards. So I'm, what I would say, successful. And I've come to the realization that we're all still dealing with inner critics. So whether you're starting out, whether you have just finished a degree in music, whether you don't have any musical qualifications, whether you have no musical training whatsoever, we are all dealing with inner critics. Okay, that's the mean inner voices that you hear. And the sooner you realise that everybody is suffering from it at the same time, it's a leveller. So if you have no musical training compared to some other composers, that does not mean that they are better or you are worse or vice versa. It means that they have been trained in a certain way of thinking. That's when you start to focus on what you have. What do you have? And that's what you've got to do. So this kind of joins back in with point 2. It's not necessarily the tools, but what do you have that makes you special? You have you, which makes you special, but you can use those to your advantage. Yes, I have musical training, but I didn't actually do a traditional music degree, so I didn't learn the same things that traditional music education teaches. So in that instance, I've done pretty well, but I have also taught myself a lot, because I was filled with insecurities about not being able to understand certain things and feeling like other musicians were better than me or looking down on me. At the end of the day, if someone's looking down on you, they'd look down on you whether they're a musician or not. It's not about that. That's their stuff. Ignore that. You just focus on you, what you enjoy, what you like to do, and what you're curious about. We're all dealing with inner critics, you know. Oh no, am I going to win another award this month? Oh, I don't actually know how to form an Italian sixth chord. Yeah, well, I don't actually know what notes are in the key of D flat major. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you want to learn more stuff, learn it and see it as a fun thing. If you're not bothered about learning more stuff in that way and you just want to do your thing, do your thing. We're all suffering from inner critics. We're all the same. We're all dealing with the same elements of music. What makes you different?